everyone. I am live again. Yes, this is Double Whammy Friday, and I'm having here my good friend, Dr. Nima Rahmany. We're going to be doing this kind of chats, I think, once a week if we can manage it with our busy schedules. And we're going to be talking about what we love to talk about, right? And it's going to be fun. So if you're there, let us know where you're watching from. Definitely let us know if you have any questions about relationships, resentments, health problems that are not resolved. Which I just had an amazing interview this morning with Dr. Wade. If you haven't seen it, please go check it out. We're going to be doing this kind of chat. Ooh, what was that?
Sorry about that.
It was an amazing opening up a chair from him about how he's going through some health challenges and how he realized that most of these health challenges are coming from unresolved issues from the past, unresolved pains and traumas and feelings that he just put under the carpet. It was just a beautiful share. I recommend you go watch that. And now this morning, welcome to my Naked Chat on Fridays here with Dr. Nima. Hi, Nima. How are you?
Good. I guess is it morning or it's morning over there? Good morning, Aura. It's always great to talk to you. It's like talking. I mean, it's like how we used to talk about relationships on the balcony in the Dominican when we were serving at Cairo Mission. This is just the same thing. A little bit of technology. Why not? Let's do this. Let's do this regularly.
Yes, I think, and I know I named this chat toxic relationships because, I've been very candid. I'm very naked about my journey. Obviously, I had my share of those, and especially one big one, that's how Get Naked was born. But I know you know a lot of this, and you work with a lot of people that are in toxic relationships and a lot of people that are dealing with unresolved issues health-wise. And sometimes we just don't know where those come from, right? Just like my guest this morning, we can't peg it because we're doing all the right things, right? We're eating right and exercising, and some of us are even meditating, and we're still getting these physical expressions of pain. So what can you tell us?
Well, this is the thing. Every one of us, when we go to the gym, we do healthy things. We do things that we perceive are going to make us healthier or hopefully get us healthier. And you get the green smoothies, you go to the gym, you get your chiropractic adjustments, whatever it is. The unfortunate thing is that a lot of times, no matter what we do, just like your previous guest on your show earlier, you get into these hiccups with your health and you wonder, where does it come from? And what it does, the gift of these things is it forces you to really look at all areas of your life. And the places that we look are the open loops in our relationships, the incompletes, the places where you want to think about, I'm afraid of going there because I'm going to bump into that person, or I don't go to Christmas dinner because I don't want to bump into my father, or I can't stand my mother, and you label her with all sorts of disorders, bipolar, narcissism. You have all these reasons why you cannot love somebody, and you've been wronged by somebody, and these old emotional injuries are left kind of under the rug, and we're doing all of these physical things, taking a million vitamins, but we're not addressing the emotional issue underneath. We're not addressing the emotional wound.
And why? Why are we doing that? What is keeping us from looking further and actually resolving this crap in our lives so we can move on happier to the next challenge? So what is keeping us from doing that?
Well, everybody would love to be healthy, and everybody ideally wants to feel safe, heard, loved in relationships. But these incompletes, these emotional wounds are very painful. Like, I know one of my clients, he's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu artist. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. He's completely like a badass, like muscle. He's like, I made a comment. I was like, it's almost like you'd rather be having somebody attack you with a baseball bat because you'd know exactly what to do and you'd be able to take them down, versus having a conversation with your own brother. Where there's a resentment. Why is that, Aura? It's because emotional wounds are extremely painful. And we have ways of distracting ourselves with work, with our addictions, with even exercise and nutrition and all that stuff, everything, so that we don't address the core wounding, which is rejection, guilt, shame, and resentment. And so those emotions and going back there are incredibly painful. In fact, when people come to me, I'm like, okay, so we're going to go back and we're going to recontextualize and to heal those wounds and to really get connected with that child inside of you that feels abandoned and betrayed and not enough and unworthy. And people are like, whoa, 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 you don't expect me to go back there, do you? The past is in the past. I'd rather not deal with it. I'd rather not deal. I know it has to do with my father, but I don't want to deal with it. And what happens is those incompletes, what I call them incompletes, those open loops that aren't yet connected with love, gratitude, empathy, forgiveness, all of that stuff that's not complete, we carry it around with us, and then it causes all sorts of destruction in our current relationships and our health.
So what do you think, what has worked with your clients that gets them over the pain point of looking back, gets them over that hump, that it is more painful not to look back than what they fear to look back is, right?
Well, I just spoke with somebody last week, and she was a little bit in denial. She got a cancer diagnosis a few months back, and I basically said, okay, so you've been sweeping that guilt and the shame from past relationship incomplete. She was divorced and holding on to shame about the breakup. And I basically said, okay, so if we don't actually resolve that part of it, what's going to happen? It just hit her that she's going to die a lot faster, and her kids, and she's dissociated from herself. She's not really enjoying life because she's disconnected from herself. And she basically saw that if she doesn't actually resolve it and go through the fear of actually addressing those emotional wounds, she's going to die. So what causes people to take action? Many people don't. And when they connect to how this emotional wound that's unresolved is impacting their ability to be intimate with other people, impacting them from connecting with their hearts, connecting with their purpose, and really affecting their experience of being alive, that's when they decide to really invest in the time, effort, energy, money, attention to look after those wounds and start to actually treat and heal them internally. So it's a wake-up call. What causes people is a massive wake-up call. It's kind of like, it's like you, Aura, with patients. I can turn around and ask you the same thing. If I say, so this person's been dealing with their knee issue or back issue or headaches for like months, but what caused them to finally call you and say, let's fix this? Well, it's because their headache is now stopping them from really like golfing or playing with their grandkids or whatever. There's a pain that motivates you to actually go, all right, it's time for me to resolve this. What it did for me was a toxic relationship breakdown. It was a year ago, and there was this huge conflict that caused a blowout, and things got physical, things got really volatile, and it was like this wake-up call that I had been sweeping under the rug for so many years. I didn't want to deal with it because I didn't have the time. I didn't want to deal with it because it was too shameful for me to look. It was too shameful for me to actually bring the darkness into the light and go, this is my issue. I was too embarrassed. My ego could not handle being exposed that I was not living congruently with what I was kind of teaching. And I was prepared. Here's the crazy part. I was prepared to not address it for the rest of my life. I was okay, as long as I was having my dream of teaching, speaking, making a difference, and I had enough people telling me how wonderful I was as far as a practitioner, I didn't care about actually dealing with the real issue. I was prepared to sweep it under the rug, no matter how often she was going to be like, we should address this. I was like, forget it. And I was just like completely closed off. And unfortunately, what woke me up was a really horrible, toxic breakdown. So we try to tell people, catch it early, but in reality, there's going to be, you either take it on now, or you wait for a big wake up call to do it. And either way, you cannot hide from the truth.
I think if you hide, it just keeps showing up in other areas of your life. That has happened to me so many times. And it's just like,
Well, we're dealing with conscious.
oh, can you see? There we go.
Are you back?
Yes, I'm back. Can you see? Yeah.
Yeah, now I can see you. What I was saying is we're dealing with consciousness work.
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with the work of remaining conscious. In other words, I must be aware of who I am, what I'm doing each and every moment, whereas 95% of the time, according to Joe Dispenza, 95% of the time we're walking around unconscious. Our unconscious programming is kind of driving the bus. And so the work of being human is to awaken from my unconsciousness, because the first half of life is all just kind of like this giant, as James Hollis calls it, this giant mistake. You think you're conscious, you think you're aware, but you're actually being driven by unconscious pursuits, like trying not to be like your mother, trying desperately to please your mother. Either one of those two, you're literally being driven by something outside of you thinking that you're conscious. And it's not until the divorce, it's not until a health challenge or a major financial setback where we're like, forced to awaken and go, holy, this is how I've been playing this game of life. And then your loved ones will all tell you, we know, we've been trying to tell you this. We've been trying so desperately to tell you, but
You don't want to hear.
But we don't listen until this wake-up call. So this work, what I've discovered is this, the work is to stay as conscious of myself as possible. Am I in my breath? Am I in my body, or am I in my mind? The clients we work with are constantly, we're getting them the challenge of, are you aware of your breath? Are you aware of your positioning on this planet? Are you aware of what your vision and purpose is on this planet? Those things we're totally dissociated from, and we don't even know it. We don't even know that we don't even know, until health problems force us to get us back into our bodies. And so what blocks us from being able to access that is trauma. What blocks us from being able, let me say that again. What blocks us from being able to, what blocked me from being able to access myself, my body, being able to have access to the control of the direction of my focus and my mind, because it'll go off and create stories out of nothing. What blocked me from that is trauma of various sorts. Physical, there's emotional trauma, there is separation trauma that you might have experienced when a parent got divorced. But in order for you to create a future and a life of your design, it takes effort to go back and recontextualize and look back at all of these beliefs and stories that you've made up about yourself. Those are what are responsible for getting you exactly here. Whereas most people just want to put the blame on their father, mother, ex, whatever. And what my message is let's just put those victim stories aside and realize they're all on their path. They're all dissociated from themselves as well. And it's my job to just worry about getting me back into my body, and then finding ways to get complete and conscious with all of those open loop relationships that are incomplete, so that I can now feel authentic. I can now feel understanding of myself and other. I can be present in my body. I can actually have intimacy now with myself. I can actually look in a mirror and know who I am and say, I love you, which is probably the biggest hurdle that blocks most of my clients that are coming in. And there's ways of actually accessing it so that you can clear the shame, clear the resentment, take off the mask and say, this is me. I made some mistakes, and those are part of my unconscious journey, and I'm here to awaken myself, and I'm here to awaken other people who are interested in that journey as well.
I love that share. Obviously, it just reminded me of this morning. I was talking to Dr. Wade, and he asked me, you know, how do I stay more in my heart instead of my head? And I said, we spoke about just go back to your breath, go back to your breath, go back to feeling that, and that just keeps you more present. But you were saying about obviously going back to heal those wounds from traumas of the past that we don't even know they happen. And then when we realize that they did happen for a reason, and we see the gratefulness in the process, then we're able to then move forward to the next big challenge, because it's going to keep happening, right? We just become aware.
We're meant to climb. We're meant to climb to our next level, and the next
fall. It's constant, yeah.
You're gonna get your ass kicked. You're gonna get your ass kicked on this climb, and each one is there to help us grow. And the question is, all right, what's my next climb? And so I'm on my next climb, which is to really, like, I've gone to a deeper level of healing that kind of core wounds and getting connected with that little version of Nima that felt dissociated and alone, and is trying to compensate for that by being seen, heard, by getting all this attention, by getting into relationships with people who deliberately I select so that I never have to worry about being abandoned. And instead of sitting there and blaming that person, I got to look back and go, let's see the pattern here. Ooh, how am I a cause of that pattern? Ooh. And that first shining the light on it is incredibly painful, because your ego doesn't like it. Your ego does not want to be exposed, and your ego is there to protect that little wound of yours.
That is so true. And obviously talking to you sometimes is painful for me, because I see my patterns. And I'm like, shoot.
Do I do that?
Yeah, well, I'm sure I do it on you too. You know, we mirror image each other, and I'm sure when you were going through your thing, it was just, I was like, Nima, I know this. And you're like, no.
Yeah, this is funny. I remember calling you before, and I'm like, hey, Aura, so this is what happened. And then this is what you said that most people mirror. And so when you said that, I want to say thank you, because I'll tell you what you just said, which had me kind of look and then find the answer. You were like, oh, honey, you don't love yourself. You were like, oh, honey, you don't love yourself. And I'm just like, I know, I don't. I absolutely don't. So how do I get there? And you're like, you just have to love yourself. And I'm like, well, fuck, how the hell am I supposed to do that? And so I was like, oh, okay, I now get it. So I'm pleased to say, I'm a kind of thinking kind of guy. And I was like, I got to figure it out here. But then what I discovered was there's a gap between figuring it out here and then getting it here. And I realized the work that I had to do to get out of here and get into here, which is incredibly difficult. Holy crap.
Yeah.
And everybody that I see is dealing with the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's like, holy, let me just share with you my journey. And so I feel it now more than I ever have. And I'm at the point right now where I'm not trying to get it from somebody else.
That is a big thing, because that happiness comes from within, and that fulfillment comes from within. Nobody else, no relationship, no status, no money, no accolades. It just comes from there. And I think I remember having that conversation, telling you, yep, gotta go inside, because that's what's gonna fill you and fill those voids that we've been trying to fill with relationships, because that's what it is. We expect those people to fill those voids. If we are insecure, we expect them to feel us secure. If we are lacking somewhere, well, then we expect us to lift us up. And so we choose this kind of individuals that are going to fill those voids. And hey, I've been guilty. I've been so guilty. I mean, this shouldn't go live, but yes. Oh God. I mean, there's some guy saying, yeah.
No, but here's the thing. Here's the thing that I realized. As we go endlessly searching for that magical one that's going to heal us from those wounds, here's the crazy part about that. Nothing they do will ever, ever, ever be enough.
That's why we want more and more and more and more.
You're not doing it. You're not fixing it. What's the matter with you? Come on. And they're like,
Oh God, yeah.
And my heart kind of like, it's just, as I watch young couples getting married in their 20s and everything, and realizing the journey that I've went through right now, and knowing that everybody's on their own path, I just think, how is it that we can go into marriages, go into relationships and all this stuff without this core education?
Yeah.
And I guess this is part of the education, is to go through it. And luckily, there's tools. Luckily, there's people who've been, climbed that mountain before, done the work and cried the tears, so that they can help us through when their heart is really focused and centered on doing it. And that's exactly what my new, my mission and purpose is health and transformation, transforming health and purpose by going access into relationships and detoxifying them, by detoxifying the relationship with the self. So it's a relational detox, relationship detox, that like we do, okay, let's do a liver cleanse and a smoothie detox and whatever, but we don't talk about a relationship detox that's piggybacked off of the relationship with self detox. And that, my friends, is the new kind of health revolution, I believe. I believe the new health revolution in this day of disconnection is really about deeper connection and intimacy with self. That's the only thing that's going to save us.
I highly believe it. Obviously, I've worked. I mean, I don't do, when people think that I do relationships, I don't do relationship therapy of any sort. No, it's all working with your relationship to self, because that's what's going to heal, so you can then be who you want to be in that new relationship or that current relationship. It is all from you, not to you. So yeah, so I know we do parallel things, and I'm sure you have your tools, I have my tools, and our mission is to help, because we have gone through hell and back, and we have learned the hard way. I sometimes wish there was like an easy way of learning this, before having to see all those sides and having to go through those painful hills and valleys. But I think that's why we have people, and we are willing to share our crazy stories, because we know that other people get blessed when we share and when we help them see their own truth, because it is inside. I always tell my clients, I said, the answers are always within. They're not somewhere else. It's not in a guy, it's not in a Tinder site, it's not where else. It's right inside. We're just not asking the right questions. What do you think is the first, because I love to leave this kind of chats with some kind of tips that we can give our viewers so they can start using right away. What would be the first question they should be asking themselves in order for them to get that, aha, maybe I should look further into this?
Perfect. Okay, good question. You want to look at the constraint that's going on in your relationship, and you're going to want to ask, what's the predominant interpretation and belief that's coming through? Because what's going to happen is you're likely going to want to go into story. Your ego wants to go into story and separate yourself from that toxic relationship. Okay, whether you're in one or you're still wounded by one that broke up months ago or years ago, and you're still taking up time and space in your mind, you want to find the main constraint. And you do that by ending the story, jumping up into what I call overview, looking down and asking, what's the predominant belief or interpretation that I'm making about me? Okay, and this is the first challenge of your ego, because your ego is doesn't want vulnerability is the end of ego. So it's blocking you from actually experiencing that. Well, he's an asshole, she's an asshole, she's this, she's that. No. Let's look. What is it that anger is actually, that resentment, that constraint is actually protecting you from? So the first step is kind of like breaking down the vulnerability and opening up the wound and going, what is it? And the wound will be, there's a rejection, is I'm not enough. It all equates to I'm not enough. It all equates to I'm not worthy enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not whatever it is. You want to address the core wound that toxic relationship was bringing up. That's the gift in it. because what you're wanting to do is you want to blame the other person, and blame is a very convenient way of discharging pain and discomfort. So I'm hurting, so I'm just going to point the finger and says, you hurt me, instead of me taking ownership of my part and really seeing why I've got myself here, which is a core wound. Let's uncover it. Let's unwrap it. And so you want to ask, what is the interpretation of that constraint? I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. That's what our ego is trying desperately to protect us from. So where that comes from, and realize that in this relationship, it's not coming from this relationship. It's coming from a previous one, from a primary caregiver often. And then you're going to want to ask, where did I, just like when? Where did I experience this before? And once you've uncovered that, now you have the foundation for going in and healing. Now you have an access point. And so what you're going to want to do is ask that, and then get to the work. Get to the work of resolving it. Not only that, but then closing the loop and then sharing your inauthentic story with that other person. So there's some steps that it takes. You can't just overcome, but a good naked tip to get you naked is to go underneath the pain, go underneath the anger, and see what's the vulnerability you're trying to protect. And it's usually, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not enough, it's 100 times out of 100.
I love that. I think one of the tips that I give is that if you find yourself complaining, that's a tip right there. Stop yourself. If you're complaining about your significant other, that is the biggest clue that it's time to look further. If catch ourselves with that same rhetoric, right? Because most people complain about their significant others the same old thing every freaking day. It doesn't even get different. So it's like, because, and I think that is your first sign. Yeah. Wake up. It's time to do something.
And when you get this right, relationship, then you realize it becomes a spiritual practice, because again and again and again, it's really about becoming trigger proof. It's about using the triggers as gifts to go inside, to go, all right, where's unresolved? What do I got to look at? What do I got to work on? And that's really how we do it. And so as you continue that inner work, the relationship becomes spiritual practice. You now have expanded that space between stimulus and response. Instead of reacting unconsciously, you now become conscious co-creator of your life, rather than just being at the mercy of externals, other people's, what they say and do, whether it's support and praise, or criticism. You're not seeking one and avoiding another. You're present in your body and you're embracing both, because you now are the one that is in equanimity and in control of, you're driving the bus rather than your ego doing it for you, which is pretty much how I spent the first half of my life.
Hey, I've dealt with my share of things, and I think I catch myself sometimes doing this in current relationships, and it's like, ugh. So it's time to go back and do some work and reassess and see if I'm living according to my values. But it's not about changing the person you have next to you.
It's about being conscious. It's just about being consciously aware.
Yourself, to see if you want to be still and to then see the big picture. I love these chats with you. I could chat all day long, even though you make me feel icky inside sometimes, because I know I have to do some more work. But good.
Aura, do I give you the no feeling? Tell me more about that. Tell me where that comes from.
Yes, you do.
You know what? On one of your, how naked do you want to get? On one of your calls,
you do me.
I want to do a session on you. Let's do this publicly. If you're willing, if you're open, how naked do you want to get in front of your people is the question.
Let's go. Listen, I've been very naked through this whole thing, and
I love you for it.
Yeah, and yes, and I feel kind of like, I feel sad sometimes for the people that are next to me. Like, it's the truth. I'm like, you, dude, really. The thing is that when I'm dating or who I'm with, they know. I tell them straight up and say, listen,
I'm a piece of work.
Exactly. I'm like, and I want that stamped and like notarized.
Listen. Before we move on, there's something that I have to say. My name is Aura, and I'm a piece of work.
Do you know what? I do. I feel almost like, you know, they were warned so many times and so many opportunities were given for them to run away that if they want to take punishment, that's up to them.
But you know what? You're equally as magnificent. You're equally as here's the thing. You're equally as intoxicating as you are toxic. Just
how we know there is a beautiful self.
Yeah, it's an affirmation. I am equally as intoxicating as I am toxic.
Oh God, this is so bad. I want to make this a weekly thing. And yes, I am willing to get naked. Just do me live and I'll just make sure my boyfriend doesn't see that. And yeah. Oh my God, this is so us. I love it. Oh my God, this is so bad.
I can't believe we're having this conversation
live. Oh, if JC could only see us now.
This is the thing, is that there's no difference between the real, live and this is how we are. This is us.
Oh God, you gave me such a flashback right now. I swear to God, you started laughing like that and I got a flashback of I don't know how long ago. And yes, this is us. And that's why I love you, Nima. You are,
you too.
I honestly, I looked up to you. You're one of my messed up friends that I look up to.
Yeah. Totally. Let's be messed up together.
Let's be messed up together. Let's keep helping people see their own messes, because as we say, right? Your mess is your message, turns into your message.
Yeah, I'm very open with them. I'm very open. You are as well. And it's through self-healing. We're all self-healers. So I want to teach others how to become self-healers too.
I love it. This has been great. Let's do it again. Okay. So we're going to do it. And we'll figure it out where you get me naked. Maybe we'll do it in your channel instead of mine.
Okay.
Let's know. At least, they'll be probably more ready for my naked body than you.
Okay. Let's do this.
Oh, for sure. So we said it here on Facebook. Thank you for everybody that commented, everybody that chimed in. We love them, appreciate you. Hi, Jose. Hi, Jamie. Hi, everyone. If you like this, definitely like, comment, share away. If you know anybody that is going through a toxic relationship or that has a toxic relationship to themselves, this is the one to share with them as a loving act of kindness, because most of us, sometimes we think it's us is the problem. There is no solution. We see ourselves in this dark cloud and we don't see a way out, and there's plenty of ways out, and there's plenty of systems. You can contact Nima, you can contact me. There's plenty of ways. Just know that there is hope. If there's hope for us, there's hope for you, and we are here to serve you and love you through the process, because it is a process. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being there. Check out my podcast, Get Naked with Dr. Aura. Dr. Nima he's right here. He's very reachable and approachable. Just send him a message and he will be glad to answer and accommodate you.
Big love. Thank you, Aura. And thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. You guys go have yourself a blessed Friday. Stay naked, stay true.